feel like this is like a King Kong movie where you're waiting for King Kong to come out, but like you gotta wait like 10, 20 minutes before he actually comes out. I've been dying to give my take while you guys are talking. I've been dying.
Go
I'm like,
ahead.
I'm pissed on a cane right now, and my take keeps evolving as I listen to your ideas. Okay, here we go. Number one.
I can't wait. I
Number
can't wait
one.
to hear it.
This is Top Stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. And, well, it appears that Shakur Stevenson is retiring from boxing. Are we really buying this retirement announcement? And what spurred on this decision? We will talk about it here on Top Stories. I'm George Deon Tellis with Teddy Atlas, Chris Algieri, and Paulie Malignaggi. All right, let's get deep into this conversation here because Shakur Stevenson stunned the boxing world by announcing on X that he is officially retiring. Now, his tweet put out saying, "I'm officially retiring from the sport of boxing. I'll be in the gym forever, perfecting my craft and helping the next generation become great and chase their dreams, but I ain't effing with this weak boxing game anymore." All right, before we get into some reactionary tweets, we'll put it that way, I want to hear, Teddy, do we really buy this from Shakur Stevenson, who's undefeated, 26 years old, and still has a lot of great fighting left in his career? Are we really buying this?
Maybe first he should concentrate on his writing skills and replace they dreams with their.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe a little bit of concentration on that, and then maybe we'll take him serious about some of these things that he's saying, which it's like he wrote that quickly, like it wasn't serious, and I was supposed to believe this. There's only two things that can come out of my mouth. I mean, I don't want to knock the guy, but who really cares and who believes it? Obviously, that's what we're pushing around right now. Is why would he do that? I don't think anyone believes that it's gonna stick. Um, if they want to do something where they have a little fun with it, you could do the groundhog thing. You know, who's that famous groundhog from the movie with Bill Murray? I know Paulie would know, but that famous ground, yeah, that guy.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, let's bring him out. You know how they bring him out to see whether or not the spring is going to come, whether or not winter's going to end. We got to bring him out to see whether or not Shakur's going to unretire, and see, see if he comes out and how he reacts to see, okay, is it going to be another month or is he coming out, in the next 2 weeks? He's coming off. I mean, you don't need me to tell. And again, it's like you can't win with this when you're commenting on it because it's like you're making fun of a guy or something. But he comes off like a spoiled brat. I mean, he I guess the word that a lot of people will probably use and are using is diva. He comes off like a diva. Nobody really likes a diva when you got people that really the crux of our audience. I mean, the real base of fight fans out there are people that gotta go and do something that they don't like every day. They gotta, whether it's getting up at 5 o'clock in the freaking morning to go feed their family, to grab a hold of a jackhammer and bang it around for freaking 9 hours. Do you think that those guys want to hear this? Really? I don't think so. I don't think they want to hear this. That in their mind, a kid that is got all this talent, he's a millionaire, and he decides that I'm not gonna. I don't want to do this no more. I'm for whatever reason, real reason. But he says because he's mad because they didn't give him the fight that he wanted. How would we react if I just grab a name? If LeBron James said, "I'm retiring because they didn't name me to the All-Star team." I mean, what would we be crying over it? Would we be? I mean, what would our react? It wouldn't be good reaction for along the same thing. So again, it's a hard thing to really to wrap your head around and say, well, I really care a lot about this right now. He's made a lot of money. Obviously, he has the prerogative of doing whatever he wants. But to say because he didn't get a fight, I mean, take a look around you a little bit at this business and how many fighters don't get an opportunity that you've gotten. And I know you got the ability. I know that you've been training since you're a kid and that you've sacrificed a lot. I know a lot of guys have. Everybody in this business have, and they all haven't. They don't all have the talent you have. Number one, and the help that you've had, the connections with the promoter that you've had, and you listen. Your talent brought you there. Your work ethic brought you there. I give you that. But you know how many fighters, when you make this statement, how many fighters out there say, "Are you kidding me? Give me anything. Give me a bone." You know, give me. You know how many fights I watched on Friday Night Fights over 20 years, where a fighter never got an opportunity that would win a fight and never would get an opportunity that he deserved to get, and he would go back to the back of the line and have to face thousands of punches for a couple $1,000 a fight in places that you never heard about. Enid, Oklahoma. Enid, Oklahoma. You been to Enid, Oklahoma, any of you guys? No, I don't think so. And these fighters would have to go there and fight for a few $1,000 because they didn't get a fair square, a square opportunity, a square deal. And he's gonna again. I said this a couple of weeks ago on our show. Some of these guys need better people around them, and I'm not putting it on. It's on him, but these you got to have better advisors around you to talk to before you go out there in this business that I just described. In this world, in these times where people are out there, you know, trying to take care of their families in any way they can. They don't have the options you have. They don't have the talent you have. I get it, but they don't have what you in their minds what you're throwing away. What you're just throwing away. That they would go in a ring with a guy, you know, with one arm if they had an opportunity to be able to achieve the things and the monies and the things that it would bring to their family that you have a chance to. So again, these guys, they sometimes I wonder about the advisors they have around them. Again, it's on them, but it sure helps if you have good people around you to advise. I don't know who's around them. Maybe he doesn't listen to them. Maybe whatever. And then the final thing I'll finish with is because there's no way this, obviously don't believe this is lasting. Why does he do? He does it because he's a spoiled brat, like a kid in the schoolyard. You're not letting them have their way, so they walk away. They're not going to play. So I'm not playing that. No, I'm not playing that. I mean, you're gonna. That's what it looks like. You're gonna do. Or is it possible that some genius thought that he'll get more public, he'll get more attention his way? You know, a few guys have done it and didn't last long. We know that, but that he'll get more attention his way, and then he'll come back and he'll create some reason that he came back, and then he'll come back and he thinks that the sport will be waiting for him in open arms and embrace him in a larger way than he feels that he wasn't embraced in, that he deserves to be embraced in, that he deserves to get more attention in those areas. I don't know. Is that it? Whatever it is, like I said when I opened this thing up, it's hard to care. It's hard to care. We have to talk about it because it's boxing, and this is what we do. We talk about these stories, so we have to. But if we didn't have to, honestly, that's not even bother.
All right, Chris, are you buying Shakur Stevenson's retirement here?
Now, Teddy, as much as I agree with a lot of the points you're making, things are different now, and we live in a different kind of era. And Teddy, you're a little older than Paulie and I, but I'd like to think that we have a little bit of an old school mindset. We're kind of old school and a throwback in a way in terms of the way we fight, in terms of the way we fought, in terms of the way that we think about the business. Things are a little different now with these young guys.
Before you even say anything else, Chris, I respect the 2 years. Whatever you say, I'm gonna hear and I'm gonna respect it because it's where it's coming from. But I want to ask you one thing. if he didn't make the millions of dollars, and God bless him, he earned it. But if he didn't make the millions of dollars that he's made, do you think that he would be making? And I know that it's a hard question to ask you to get in his head.
Well,
but do
I
you
think I'm ahead of
think
you already.
that-
I'm gonna answer that in my.
Do you
the rest
think
of my
he'd be
thought.
making? Do you think he'd be making this statement? That's all.
So that's going to be the rest of my point. Is going to answer just that. And listen, it would be easy for me to jump on board and jump on the kid, But listen, if we all agreed all the time, nobody would want to listen to this. So I'll take a different route.
100%. And I'm not jumping on him.
No,
Vince,
no, I'm saying
jumping
that
on him.
I'm not going to jump on him as well because I think a lot of people are. And listen, I understand that. I'm going to talk from a fighter's perspective. And like what you said, Teddy, that question you asked me, if he didn't make those millions of dollars, there's a saying, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And what that means is that Shakur is living his own route, and it's a very different one than the way that I came. But it's a very different one than 99.9% of the guys who are coming up are out there are experiencing. And for him, to me, this is just a very frustrated fighter, and he's frustrated for a number of reasons. One, he's frustrated because his last performance was, his lack of effort in his last performance has been getting dunked on by everybody. His allure, his value has gone down based on that performance. And even though he was fighting a very dangerous guy, which we all know, he didn't perform the way that is expected of someone that we were putting in the world of a top pound-for-pound type fighter.
And he admitted it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Listen, it happens. You have off nights.
Right.
And against a very dangerous guy. He is very frustrated in what the business is doing, what's happening around him. And he's losing what's that saying? He's losing the forest for the trees, or losing the trees to the forest. He's not seeing what's being mapped out for him. Listen, with this fight happening, this Navarrete fight, he's most likely the next in line. They're gonna want to. We live in the world of unifications now. We got all these unification fights. Lomachenko and Kambosos. We've already talked about that fight on air in past shows. There are great fights for him. They're just not happening right now. To me, this sounds like a guy, because we live in an era now where you can just word vomit whatever you're feeling, any kind of frustrations you have on a thing called Twitter, and it just sounds like he's very frustrated. He got to the phone, put his stuff out there, but man, is he retiring? No, he's unretired already. This tweet came out whenever it came out. He was unretired 30 seconds after he sent it. It's a sign of frustration. It's a sign of the times we're in, where we have so much access to put our ideas out there. And listen, man, these guys, when you get hot, these young guys, when you get hot, stay off your damn phone.
Yeah.
We don't need everything out there. We don't
Well,
need
that's what
every
I mean
thought
about
process
it.
that goes
It
through your
helps
head.
Not
you
just
have
the
the
young
right
guys.
people
Sometimes I gotta
around
do that
you.
too.
Yeah,
If you have
Paul,
the right people
exactly.
around you to advise you, it helps a little bit.
Thank you for putting that in perspective.
Yeah,
But
everyone who has
absolutely,
a
it's just-
phone, pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I don't, and to your point, Teddy, that you said earlier, like, is this some master plan? I don't think so. I literally just think he was upset about what happened. He got fired, got hot-headed. Off air, we were all talking about how if you're a fighter, you have some mental issues. You are
I know
aggressive.
there's another
You're
point,
explosive.
but
We
shouldn't
all
he have
have these
people
ideas.
around? Shouldn't he have people around him, Chris? Really, that that say, hey, man, hold off for let's take a deep breath. Hold off for an hour, and we'll come back and we'll revisit this great idea.
Teddy, it's tough when you have access to the world in your pocket at all times.
I know.
So it's just we live in a strange time where the access is so much, and some
Here's a
guys
tough question,
take
Chris,
real advantage of it.
Chris, I
Some
wanna
guys get
ask you
hurt.
Here's a tough question, and it people say whatever they want because I'll bring up these kind of questions, and I bring them up because I think they should be brought up. He wanted to fight Never Ready, right? Whatever. And I love Never Ready. I mean, I love the guy. I love what he's all about, his power, his toughness, his relentlessness. He's an awkward son of a gun. He's all over the place, but he's a fighter.
Hard not to like.
Yeah, really hard not to like the guy. The opposite of Stevenson, quite frankly. Stevenson's more talented than a lot of, but he's not exciting, at least to certain fans. So I know that you guys you look at the the boxing skills in a way that, as I've said in the past, he had to disarm somebody, and shut somebody down and do that in a brain. And that's beautiful to watch too. It all depends on, of your taste, obviously what you like. But Navarrete was smaller than him and everything. And a lot of people thought he would beat him because Navarrete's not hard to find and Stevenson's hard to find. Stevenson's got advantages in certain skill sets, not as far as power, but as far as speed, things like that, finesse, technical acumen, whatever. But he's looking to fight guys like that. Do you really believe? And I don't know if any of us could honestly answer this because we don't know him that well as a person, but do you really believe that he wants those other fights? That if Tank Davis was presented to him, I'm asking a tough question. I get it, but if Tank Davis was presented to him tomorrow, really, if that could, would he really take it, or would he still be looking for the Navarrete fights where he thinks he has an edge and he can stay undefeated and he can kind of walk that rope, which is an easier rope to run? Do we know that he's what we want him to be, what we think he is inside as far as wanting those kind of fights? Do we really know it? We know it about history tells us finally, eventually, but right now, do we know that? I mean, we found it out about Mayweather, who was a really good defensive fighter, fast hands, all that, great. But he wanted those fights, and and I could go down the list of other guys, Pernell Whitaker, whatever. They wanted those guys. What Sugar Ray Leonard? They wanted those guys. But do we know that he has that? We know he has all these other things. Does he have? Does he have that? Do we really? Do we know that, or is it just that he wants to avoid that too?
Well, if he stays retired, he certainly doesn't have it. That's for sure.
I'll tell you what.
ahead,
I feel like this is like a King Kong movie where you're waiting for King Kong to come out, but like you gotta wait like 10, 20 minutes before he actually comes out. I've been dying to give my take while you guys are talking. I've been dying.
Go ahead.
I'm on a cane right now, and my take keeps evolving as I listen to your ideas. Okay, here we go. Number one.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear it.
Number one. I don't think he's gonna stay retired. I think this was definitely frustration. Number two, Oscar De La Hoya is saying that because he doesn't have Shakur Stevenson signed. If Oscar De La Hoya had Shakur Stevenson signed, he would be singing a different tune. So Oscar's just trolling. Number three, Shakur also is doing this at a bad time for himself because he's coming off a performance that left a little bit to be desired in terms of excitement. So you can't, if you do this coming off a dynamic performance, people may care a little bit more. When you do this coming off of a performance like that, through no fault of his own, through some fault of his own as well, but I'm saying you're doing it at a point where people are going to care less and people are still mad at you for that kind of performance. Regardless of the fact, if you look at Shakur's performances, he's not a runner. He'll stay in front of you and make your hands in your pocket. He wants Navarrete. He wants the big fighters. We always talk about the fact that at least I do. A lot of times money's more important to these people today, nowadays, than or being famous is more important than is being the best, than is chasing greatness. Shakur Stevenson is a guy who chases greatness. We got a guy who's chasing greatness, and he is instead being punished for nobody wanting to fight him. Yes, Teddy, to answer your question, I do believe he wants all those fights. I do believe if those fights present themselves, he wants them. He's been trying to get them constantly. He was in the ring when Devin Haney won his fight. He's assuming he's going to get Navarrete. Instead, he's now seeing that he's not going to get Navarrete right now. He's looking for all the big fights he can get. He's the best one of the bunch. Nobody wants to fight him. There comes a point in time where you mentioned the basketball, the basketball game at the park analogy. Okay, what if you come into the park every day? You know you're the best, and you go to this park or that park, and you say, okay, I want your best guy one-on-one. And they say, no, today we're going to give you this guy instead. But if you can beat him, we'll give you our best guy. And you beat him, okay, tomorrow we'll give you your best guy. You show up tomorrow. No, you know what? We're not going to make him, we're not ready. We're not going to let you play him because, he didn't eat this morning or something. You know what? We're going to give you this guy instead. At a certain point, you're going to stop going to the park. You're going to realize, okay, this guy doesn't want it. These guys don't want me to show them that I'm better than their best guy. It's the same thing here. Every situation, he's looking for every situation he can get to get the best fight, to get the biggest fight, and he's not able to get it. He's not able to acquire it. So a young fighter like this gets frustrated. Now you talk about the fact of being spoiled. Talk about the fact that, okay, if he wasn't a million, if he hadn't made the millions, would he retire? Of course not. Of course not. But I can remember being robbed in the Juan Diaz fight and wanting to retire. As a matter of fact, in my post-fight rant, which is famous now, I actually said, I'm only doing this for the money. Okay, because I couldn't retire at that point. Boxing was still paying me well, but it wasn't me paying retirement type of money. Okay, so at that moment, I was as frustrated as it could be. I would have retired then. If I had made all the millions, I would have retired. I had made good money. Boxing was going to continue to make me able to live a comfortable lifestyle, so I couldn't retire. I was saying, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing this for the money. No, I don't care about this sport anymore. I'm angry. I'm frustrated in that moment. I was, of course, this is the way I was feeling in that moment. And I said, you know what? Forget about all this. I'm gonna keep doing this for the payday. I'm gonna keep doing this for the money. Well, you know what? Shakur is not doing this for the money. Shakur is doing this for the greatness. Shakur is doing this to chase being the best, and he cannot acquire it. He's already achieved the money. He's in a position where, like Chris the Champ said, 99.9% of us don't take this road where we make all that money right away. Shakur, because of his Olympic silver medal, because of the accolades, he's made a lot of money early on already. So if he's in a position to retire and he's frustrated because he can't get the best guys, and his competitive nature, he wants to get the best guys, his frustration right now is telling him, you know what, forget this, man. What's the point of a sport? This is more of a business than it is a sport. And we all learn that eventually, that it is more business than it is sport, unfortunately. Regardless of what fans think at home. So at this point, Shakur is in his frustration. He's venting his frustration. Nobody believes he's going to retire. He's not going to retire. Eventually, he's going to see, you know what? Whatever, man. Where else am I going to get this kind of money? Like you said, the guy who jackhammers every day and comes home with the rate. At a certain point, he's going to say, even if I've made very comfortable money, you know what? I can continue to get this bag and continue to make this money. They don't want to fight me. I'll just take whoever comes my way and I'll keep beating them. And whatever opinion they want to have of me, they want to have of me. At a certain point, you're going to understand people's opinions don't matter. Okay, you know, always, to a degree, they may bother you here, they may bother you there, but they start to matter less and less and less. And unfortunately, and both fortunately, you got to start thinking about, hey, man, like you're talking about, you want to be spoiled? You know what? You can spoil yourself. If nobody wants to fight you except the second-rate opponents that are forced to fight you, then you know what? Keep beating on them for the free money. You know, because the best guys aren't going to fight you, and the more impressive you're going to look, they're not going to fight you. It doesn't help Shakur. I think Shakur does need a PR person as far as the way he talks sometimes. When he expresses himself, well, like when he said in that interview about how he'd fight Pacquiao, he would just make it boring. Even if you're thinking that, you don't do that. Shakur has a way of boxing you where he doesn't run. People get mad because he makes it boring because he disarms you so well. Reganda always used to do it. Reminds me a little bit of Reganda on that way too, where he just makes you put your hands in your pocket. So I think, but he doesn't run. He just stays right in range. I think if he was busier with the jab a little bit and instead of a lot of times jabbing and then waiting for those guys to get off and then punishing them so that they don't get their hands off even less. Once you got a guy with his hands in his pocket and he can't move and he can't really make a move confidently, you got to start being first a little bit more often and be a little bit of a destroyer. If you're not going to get the stoppage, at least you just beat them up and make them not want to fight anymore.
We've seen that. We saw that in the Herring fight. He had a guy in front of him.
We saw the Yoshino fight, but that's the point I was making.
And he will.
But Herring,
I got a real quick story.
was old and small.
Yeah, but
Yoshino
it
too.
shows Yoshino wasn't.
Yoshino
was a guy who could punch. But I got a quick story. I retired, actually. Right, I was 16-0, and I couldn't get any of the opportunities I couldn't get on TV. My promoter wasn't getting me on big fights. He wouldn't allow me to fight the upper echelon guys. I wanted anybody that I could. And then it was right before I fought Emmanuel Taylor, which was the fight that got me the Provodnikov fight, which has got me the world title fight. I was ready to wrap it up. I was done. I was going to hang it up. I was completely done with the sport. I was so disgusted, so frustrated with the fact that I was fighting in local shows and I was selling out and I couldn't get past that point. And it wasn't anything that was my issue. It was my promoter unwilling to let me step up. I walked away from the sport at that time too. Then I got a phone call and I had a good fight. I got an ESPN main event against a ranked guy, number 3 in the world. I was retired for about 3 days.
Yeah.
No, but
go ahead, Paulie, real quickly.
That's the point I'm making here too. I don't think Shakur is going to retire, but I think in that regard, I think people are taking the Dos Santos fight a little bit out of context here. Against a puncher, you're always going to be a little bit more dangerous. Dos Santos is a puncher too, so a guy who with the skill set of Shakur is always going to fight him a little bit more safety first if he can, because we've seen what Dos Santos can do if he's able to land on you. As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody's going to go near Dos Santos. Everybody's got the balls to talk, but nobody's actually going to go show Shakur the way you're supposed to fight the Dos Santos and beat him that way. Because if you fight the Dos Santos the way everybody thinks they're going to fight him, you're going to get knocked out. You know what I mean? But having said that, I don't think you say it publicly. I don't think you need to say it publicly. Oh, I would make it boring. There are methods you display when talking to the media that you talk a certain way. I think Shakur can be an exciting fighter in spots. I think Shakur
he's got to start showing it, Paulie. He's got to start showing it because
he has. You're only as good as your last performance. He stopped Yoshino. He stopped.
I'll give you that. I'm going to ask you this.
You can only get the guys who you put in the ring with him, Teddy. You can't put a gun.
No, I get it. I get the styles of the guys and the abilities that the general people don't see those abilities of a guy like De Los Santos. I get it.
Also, the top guys won't fight him. He's going to the park. He's
No,
asking for the best guy,
again,
and he
the
can't get him.
dangerous guy he can punch. He knows what he's doing. He's hard to hit. He's slick. You make a mistake, he counter punches you. You're afraid to lead with him. I get all that. But you had a guy, the closest guy to Stevenson right now that I could think of with a big name that'd get everyone's attention is Mayweather. And Mayweather, you know, some people thought he was boring. But at the end of the day, when he had to go get you, whether it was Corrales, whether it was Gaddy, whether it was whoever it was, when he had to go get you, and Corrales was a dangerous guy.
Yeah.
When he had to go get you, he went and he got you. He didn't
Teddy,
play it
he's
safe.
still-
He didn't play it safe and just out, you know, get to the end, the distance. And I don't know if you can say the same thing about Stevenson. Can you? Can
Floyd
you?
didn't, but Teddy, Floyd didn't draw well until the De La Hoya fight. Shakur needs that kind of opponent. All you got to do is get Shakur that kind of opponent. He'll beat him, and he'll start to draw well. Regardless of how we describe Floyd, Floyd still was a guy who didn't sell well, didn't draw well, as great as he was until he beat De La Hoya, that kind of name. None of these guys, it's like the bigger names now have learned their lesson and say, I don't want to go against this guy. He's going to become a star at my expense. They don't want anything to do with him. Haney gave him a 75-25 split offer. Like, how do you even make that public? Just don't even offer him anything. It looks better if you don't offer
Yeah,
him
well,
anything.
that's your way of saying you don't want
that's
to fight, of course.
But again, that's the problem he's having, though, as far as getting the bigger names. He's showing up to the park. Again, to make the analogy you made, Teddy, he's showing up to the park, and he's asking for the best guy, and he's got to take on the next best guy, and he's got to take on the next best guy. So now this situation with Navarrete.
But the only thing, those guys in the park, they don't got $1 million in the bank account. Those guys are still trying to get to the NBA.
Of course, but that's why they're willing to play him. That's why the secondary guys have to play.
But that's my point. That's why they're going to keep going back. To your point, it was a great point. But that's why they're going to keep going back to the park, because they didn't get the money yet, and he's not going back to the park because he's got the money.
Yeah, of course, but he's putting competitiveness over money first. We talk about the attitude of a fighter, Teddy. You always talk about this. The attitude of the fighter is prioritizing being the best over money, over everything else. Prioritizing
100%.
Greatness over fame,
right.
over money. And that's what Shakur Stevenson is trying to do, but he's not being able to do it. And people are not understanding that this is what he's trying to do. And he keeps getting
Paulie, a lot of people are going to say, I don't know if he's trying to do that, but he's trying to fight Navarrete. You know, they don't know about the other fight. They want him to fight the other. In their mind, they're saying he's taking a guy who's smaller than him and a guy that, you know, with his style and his skill levels, should be able to beat.
Tank Davis is not going to fight him, Teddy. You know that. He knows that. Tank Davis is not going to fight him.
No, I just put Tank Davis out there. But you know, he's not the only guy. He's not the only guy that you could put out for the kind of fight that the fans want to see a talented fighter like him actually match his talent with.
Okay, but here's the thing. Tank Davis can fight a guy who they picked up all from the diner. He knocks him out. Oh, it's great because he knocked him out. You know what I mean? But Shakur will fight a dangerous guy who's a puncher, beat him a little bit less impressively, and all of a sudden, oh, no, we don't care about it. We don't want to see him. Okay, so then we'll get him diner workers too, and Shakur will get some stoppages. He'll be aggressive and everything else. It's the same thing at that point.
Paulie, to that point, I worked the Nakatila fight, which was a very poor performance, not poor, but a very boring performance from Shakur Stevenson. He got a lot of flack from that. And I spoke to Bob Arum afterwards, and he grabs me and he goes, how do you think the kid did? I said, well, he had a dangerous guy in front of him. He completely handcuffed him. He disarmed him. And we were talking about what he does next. And I said, Bob, just put him in with the best guys, because he's going to do the same thing. If he disarms Oscar Valdez in his next fight, which he did, it's going to be impressive. When you do it to a guy like Nakatila, you don't know, the fans go, whatever. But if you disarm...
Bob can only put him in with the best guys that Bob has.
Well, Bob can make the Navarrete fight. Bob can make the winner of Kambosos and Stevenson and Lomachenko.
And he probably was going to make them. In a unification. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's where it comes in that Shakur is acting out of frustration at the moment. I think there's a lot of good fights for him to be made that are probably in order. You know, and listen, we spoke about this about Bob about Shakur being up as a free agent soon. You think they're going to give him the fight right before he goes off and sails off to the sunset? No, they're going to dangle that in front of him. Oh, you want the Navarrete fight? Oh, you want the Lomachenko fight? We'll give it to you after you re-sign. It's just business.
Yeah, but that's a good point there. Is this a negotiating ploy by him? Because that's a good point that you just brought up there. Is this a negotiating ploy for him to get them to, give him what he wants? Because
I actually do think his contract was due to expire after the De Los Santos fight, right, guys?
I
But
think it's coming up.
It's
like,
this year.
Yeah,
I think in
no,
November of
it's right.
2024.
It's right,
this
coming
year.
right up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chris brings up, a great point. I mean, is this, is this part of the method to his madness,
Yeah,
if
posturing.
you will?
It's posturing.
And you know what's going to happen, right? When his next fight is announced, we're gonna talk about it here on Top Stories on either Deep Waters or Big Fight Preview here on ProBox TV. All right, Teddy, Paulie, and Chris, great work as usual here on Top Stories. Don't forget, like and subscribe. And we're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers and here on YouTube. And if you are the 100,000th, you get gifts and prizes. This is Top Stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel.